Hi, I'm Jane, and together with Jodes, we are two proud feminists passionate about female empowerment. This podcast is our take on the real conversations, real issues, and real challenges we must stay focused on if we're going to inspire the next generation of female leaders, managers, and entrepreneurs to pick up the baton and continue the journey to equality. But be warned, there will be rants and the odd profanity, but mainly just lots of curious conversations, uplifting stories, great guests, and food for thought on the path we still have to travel. It is clear that our young girls need us to harness our gumption and to use our voices now to make the changes we all know need to happen. It's time to be a pioneer, not a passenger. To paraphrase the famous words of a female game changer, Hollywood's iconic Bette Davis, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Hello. Welcome back, everybody, to this, the sixth, that's a mouthful, I have to put my teeth in for that, sixth episode of Series 2. So just as a reminder that the theme for this series has all been about bias in the system. And we spent the first 5 episodes of this series, as usual, we are called Jane and Jodes on one for a reason. Yeah. But naturally, that does mean that we like to get on here and have a bit of a rant about the things that we're passionate about and that we know need to change. But at the same time, it's equally as important for us to pause, take stock, and really celebrate some of the achievements that amazing women have day in, day out, year in, year out. Some of the women who we are inspired by, and remind ourselves of these fabulous human beings, but also in a little bit of a quest to help it to happen a little bit more. Successful people are the ones who figure out what works and repeatedly do it. So as part of us picking out just a small handful of the women that Jane and I would like to acknowledge and celebrate their achievements in today's episode, it's also about just taking a bit of time to say, well, what is it about these women that made them who they are and allowed them to achieve what they achieved? And so we will consolidate today's episode with a list of those superpowers that we both believe are innate in all of us, that every single woman has the capacity to bring to life. So this is a feel-good episode.
Enjoyed this one. We've enjoyed researching and talking about this one, haven't we?
Yeah, and who can believe that after today's episode, that's it, we're 2 full series down.
I know. Cool.
So yes.
Cool.
Yeah, so let's have a little bit of a chat about the research for this episode. We both did a bit of research for this episode to think, right, well, God, there's probably thousands of women out there that I could choose to talk about that I think their achievements are epic, that they're epic women. But obviously, we like to keep our episodes under half an hour.
25 minutes, yeah.
And so we picked out a couple. So Jane's got a couple, I've got a couple. And actually what stand out about a number of these is, even for us, was that actually if we hadn't have found them in a book somewhere, there's a fair old chance that we wouldn't have known about them. It was new news, which therefore means that it's likely new news for you too. So there's one of yours actually that I think's important to kick us off with, because for me, your first one's the epitome of everything that we probably want to take away from this episode. So tell us a bit about her.
Okay, so my first woman, that when I read about this woman in the Hillary and Chelsea Clinton Gutsy Women book, I was like, oh my word. And I read about her again and she's just amazing. So she's a Hollywood actress called Hedy Lamarr. Very famous actress in kind of like the peak of Hollywood. So she was born in Austria in 1914. So that gives you an idea of her generation. Very successful actress, but also just an incredibly bright woman.
Yeah.
And in between takes and in between films, she invented stuff. And I mean, just amazing stuff. So, first of all, she invented the soluble tablet. So she worked out how to dissolve things in water
and make them fizzy.
So she is the kind of pioneer of Alka-Seltzer, and anything that you now see on your shelves came from her. She also got very involved in World War II, inventing things that were going to support the war effort. So she worked with a composer to do a frequency hopping system that could prevent military radio signals from being bugged or interrupted. Who knew? Who knew? And, it wasn't until much later in her life that she was recognized for any of this. She didn't shout from the rooftops about it. She didn't get any money for any of it. She didn't patent any of it. She just kept doing it because she could see these opportunities and things that, I think I could work something out there. She was sort of very curious. And so now her work is used by the US Navy. She was finally honoured in 1997 with the Electronic Frontier Foundation Pioneer Award, and posthumously she was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. This frequency hopping technology she developed, its impact is around us, all of us today.
This is the bit that got me.
In fact, she paved the way for modern day cell phones, Wi-Fi and GPS. So we wouldn't even be doing this.
No, if it wasn't for
her. And most people would only ever really have recognised her as an actress.
No, and that's the balmy thing about it, isn't it? She would go down in standard history as this Hollywood actress.
Yeah, she was in this, she was in that. She's beautiful. I mean, look at her, you can't, but she's just beautiful. Yeah. She's proper Hollywood icon, isn't she?
Yeah, definitely. She's very Audrey Hepburn-like, isn't she?
Absolutely. And it's interesting because my husband's a film buff, and when I was reading this book, he bought me this book for Christmas one year, and I was talking about him, and he went, "Oh yeah, she's an inventor, Like, I just fell in love with him even more. The fact he knew that.
He knew she was.
He knew that about her.
But
so
all on the hush hush, all on the cutie.
Absolutely. As I say, no patents, didn't make any money out of any of it. Just did it because she could.
It's mental, isn't it? Absolutely mental. And then, the fact that we wouldn't have Wi-Fi or GPS without that initial work that she did.
All these pills that we all pop into
water. It's crackers, isn't it? Absolutely mental. I love coming across examples of women like her. I know you have this book. I have this book, The Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. It's full of amazing women just like her. And all of the magnificent things they did, they created.
The thing that's great about these books, we were talking about this before, is that, because I'm a very big champion for women, people buy me these books. They buy them for Christmas. Yeah, they buy me for birthdays. Tony always buys me one at Christmas. And every single one I read, I always find at least 5 or 6 women that I didn't know anything about that have completely changed the world. And I'm like, oh my God, I know. And yes, there are the ones that we all know, and they're amazing as well. Don't get me wrong. But every single book I've ever read, it's like, I didn't even know this woman existed. In 1210, and she was like a warrior, and she did this. I mean, and more of these books are being written now because we've got an appetite for this now, haven't we? It's like, I need more of this. And we're starting to discover these women that have been completely invisible and written out of history. Because who wants to know
somebody else has claimed the glory for it.
So I love them. I love these books.
Wow. And she's somebody that I'd never come across before. I wonder how many of our listeners had probably come across her before. Off to Google her.
Yes.
So just remind everybody, she's called Hedy Lamarr.
Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr. Lamarr. It's a very Hollywood name.
It is, isn't it?
Miss Lamarr.
Miss Lamarr.
Miss Lamarr. Just say it, please, Miss Lamarr.
Yeah. Well, I went for a few different ones on my list, and one of them is actually, very much modern day. If I asked you to guess who would be at the top of the list, I don't think anybody would guess this one. But one of the ones I've really picked out is Adele.
Mm-hmm.
Singer-songwriter Adele. I do. I think I went to one of her concerts a few years ago and cried the whole way through it. It was that moving. It was amazing.
She's so genuine, isn't she?
Yeah. And
real. She's real.
Real is the right word,
she's
isn't it?
real.
So down to earth, so transparent.
Even now, when she's living in Vegas, not Vegas, she's living in LA, isn't she? Even now, she's
still the same girl, through and through, and that carries a lot for me.
Yeah.
But actually, you know, we all know she's a successful artist, right? She's nailed it, winning at life, all of that. But actually, some of the things that I didn't know about just how successful some of her stuff had been was, so her song Hello in 2015, which obviously has been an iconic song, has become the fastest video ever that reached 1 billion views on YouTube. Like ever, over everybody in the universe. And, you know, she's so humble and has so much humility about her. You know, you don't find her going around shouting about that. She just kind of laps it up. You know, a 21 album was the first album in UK chart history to reach sales of 3 million in less than a calendar year. You know, again, nobody's ever done that. And she's hit records that only the Beatles have ever hit. Now everyone talks about the Beatles. Everyone knows the achievements of the Beatles. But not about her.
Nobody knows that she's surpassed all.
No. And that, for me, that's some of the interesting things. So it's very mainstream. You know, she's not some massive big heroine, you know, invent like Hedy was. But actually, she's breaking through loads of barriers and just
she's
taking
made a big
it in a stride.
She's made a big difference to a lot of people, hasn't she? Because she's proved as a woman that's possible. You can come from, you know, very simple upbringing, but you've got a talent. You know, so she's proved that. She writes all her own stuff, doesn't she?
And the other thing that I love about the fact that she does write her own stuff is they're all her own stories. They're all her own experiences of what she's going through.
Although I'm not sure that Hello was her song, actually. I think it was a Bob Dylan song.
So I think that, somebody been involved in writing that. But most of them, I think people resonate so deeply with them because they then know that her life's not peachy all of the time. She's having relationship breakups and difficulties and all of these other things, and that's what makes people want to really listen to her music.
She writes about herself, doesn't she?
She's real and she's a proper human in it. So interesting one. I mean, I had all kinds of things to choose from in here. You know, I got hooked on Beatrix Potter, not even realizing that you know, she owned most of the Lake District.
I didn't know that.
And when she died, she gave it to the National Trust.
Wow, I had no idea about that.
Didn't tell anybody.
No, gosh.
And I think this is one of the common threads to a lot of this. When we come to really consolidate it at the end of this episode, is these women just
I did that.
Did it. Took it in my stride. Didn't really tell anyone about it. Chalked it up as just what I do. Interesting one.
So the other one of mine is a woman I really admire, and I've been vilified for admiring her, and she's been vilified, and that's Hillary Clinton. And I just think she is the epitome of a really bright, brainy, intelligent woman who just went about, you know, her world, and she gave up her career to marry Bill Clinton. She knew he was going to be a career politician. She was the one that was going to go into politics, but she stepped back. She stepped back for him. She still worked in politics. She was behind the scenes on all his campaigns. When he got into office, she was the rock behind him. She developed most of his policies, never said anything, never took credit for them. She developed his education plan that then Obama took over. I mean, such a bright woman who has been vilified for nearly everything, has been called out for stuff that wasn't anything to do with her. Then when she went head to head with Trump, you know, that was
so hard to watch.
he got the Russians to infiltrate her email. Then the Americans thought that she was in with the. I mean, honestly, the controversy and the rumors and the narrative around her, and she never stood up and kind of engaged in the same kind of attacks, did she? She just kept herself strong and, you know, didn't buy into the narrative. And I just love her.
There's a resolve about her, isn't there? I think that's what it is for me, a resolve. steadfastness.
Yeah, a resilience, and an authenticity about her that she's not prepared to play dirty.
Yeah.
You know, this is who I am. This is what you're going to get. If you wanted somebody that's going to play dirty, it's not me. Choose your vote.
Very values driven.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so. And she lost the election because of that, because she wasn't prepared to sink to that level.
Yeah.
That's why we got Trump.
Well, that's a winner in my eyes.
Yeah. So I love her. I love her.
Yeah. But actually, you know, you might get a few people that are a bit not bought into that, but that's the media for you, isn't it? Depends what you read.
Yeah. And then even when you read stuff about her, there's been a recent documentary about her, people don't believe it. They go, but I don't believe that. Well, you have to choose what you want to believe. But I choose to believe that she is the real deal. Yeah,
definitely. Well, another one that I had on my list that would probably have the same kind of response in a lot of people would be Princess Diana.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite, especially with the bloody UK media, some of the ways that they portrayed her and stories that they printed, you know, it would encourage a number of different views on what makes her top of your list. But for me, the one standout thing for her with her is that she stood up for herself and actually lost her life because of it. That she needed to speak out about everything that she had been put through, everything that had been done to her, and it was it was an it wasn't a complete altruistic act. I don't think we've ever had a more altruistic person in any position like that. Is that all of that she either did for the greater good, for some kind of cause, or for her boys. You know, and for me, that's kind of the ultimate act, isn't it? I'm certain that she knew her fate. Yeah, she knew what was going to come her way.
Well, she talked about it, didn't she?
Yeah,
several interviews.
Yeah, so, but that vulnerability of her always from the
and what a tough life she had as well. I mean, you know, to know that the man you've married has already got a mistress and he's had a mistress all the time and he's been in love with her and just married you because you look good and you know he was told to, and you just think she knew that from day one.
So again, for me, massive one. And I had one more that I picked up out of a top 50 list actually, but given in a few of our episodes we've talked quite a lot about representation in last episode and stuff, and particularly around, you know, women in the boardroom and the percentage of kind of women we have in those executive roles, that actually it was worthy of a mention of Marjorie Scardino. She was the first female chief exec of a FTSE 100 company.
Dame, she is now.
Dame now. Dame, appointed CEO of Pearson. Yeah, you know, and actually. That was only in 1997. I mean, actually, for anyone youngish, all right, that's what 26 years ago. But that's still really recent, isn't it? Yeah. 1997 for the first FTSE 100 female CEO. So hats off to her for getting in that. But I think, you know, one of the things we've really realised in putting together this particular episode is, you can pick up the books, you can read the articles, you can check out the lists. And one thing that we notice is they're all female firsts. Yeah. The first female to do this, the first female to do that, which is, let's not take anything away from that. It's great.
Or the longest serving. So, you know, somebody again that you and I both love is the Queen.
Yeah.
Or the late Queen, for everything, you know. I mean, good grief, could talk a whole episode about her, couldn't you? Her resilience and her passion and her focus, and you know, her ability to deliver and do the job and not make a big deal about it, just get on with it. So they're either first, or they've got longevity, or they're amazing through their multitasking. Because they're not just great at one thing, are they? They're great at several things, and they leave a legacy, but very quietly.
Yeah, very quietly. Yeah. But you and I were both saying, actually, now that's great. we love all of that, all of these women being the first women to achieve some of these things. But it's time for us to move past firsts now. It's time for us to be about volume and more of us.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are still many firsts to come, aren't there?
Yeah, definitely.
But we can't just sit and wait for the first, can we? We've got to internalize that and have that the mentality that the first have. We know we've already got it. We need to harness it. We need to use it
as our superpower.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to really do with this episode is, all right, we might hold all these women up in very high regard, put them on a pedestal, maybe see them as quite far removed from us. And then that's not easy then to emulate and follow in the footsteps of them, because we're like, yeah, but things like that aren't for people like me.
They were special. They were very unique.
They were different, And actually, we wanted to bring that much, much closer to home and put it on your doorstep and kind of be like, actually, what's special about these women are things that are innate in all of us. They are traits. We have this capacity for it. They're not even necessarily skills in a lot of cases. So it's not even about that you would have to, really learn it and practice it and hone it and master it as a craft. There's stuff that we believe is within us all anyway. And actually, I think there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, God, the list could have been 122.
It could, yeah, it could. But let's stop at the Super 7.
Super 7?
Let's stop at Super 7. 7 is like a really important digit, isn't it?
I love 7.
Yeah, 7 is 7 of this, 7 of that. It seems
Threes
to be.
Or 7s.
There's a scientific there's a scientific reason for that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I know the one for 3.
About 7.
I know the power of 3, but 7's equally as sticky as 3 is. So yeah. We've kind of picked out, well, what was so special about all these women? What were some of those common traits that we know that we have the potential and the capacity to tap into too? So that as you finish listening to this episode, that you feel inspired, that you can go away and you can tap into these traits yourself and have the same sense of achievement and the same capacity for growth that they did. All right, it might be on a completely different scale. That's not the important bit. The important bit is about that we utilize and harness what we often have.
We need to channel
it.
We need to channel it. We need to channel these women to keep them alive. We need to channel their traits.
Go on then. What's top of the shop? What did we start with?
They're disruptors, aren't they? They're disruptors. We talk about this word quite a lot now. That they're creating dissonance with the status quo, because the status quo is not working, is it? It's not working for us. So they're disruptors. They find different ways of doing things. They find ways of upsetting the game. The game's always played like that, but actually it's not really working for women. So can we change the game? So to be a disruptor, and that doesn't need to be on a massive scale. You can disrupt the slightest thing and make an impact. You don't have to come up with a new thing for Wi-Fi. Yeah, you don't have to create Wi-Fi because Eddie's already done it. But it can be the smallest thing. But it's about being a disruptor, and it's about enjoying that and getting pleasure from that, because actually disrupting something makes it better.
Yeah, and I wonder actually if the word disruptor is perceived by women to be not necessarily a great thing, or something that we would have caution around, or we wouldn't want to get involved. And I don't want to disrupt, because actually, if we go back to the episode of It Starts Young, as girls we were probably in those early years taught to not disrupt. Don't be a disruption.
Absolutely.
Sit nicely in class.
Nicely and quiet. It's really interesting, because I've just come back from Dubai, and one day I was sat around the pool. I didn't do much of that. I went to work, but I was watching some of the families around the pool, and there was a family sat next to us, and they had a boy of 5 and a girl of maybe 2. And all the attention was on the boy, because the boy was being disruptive. He was making a lot of noise. He wasn't listening to his mum. She was calling him in from the pool for his lunch. He was ignoring her. And the girl was just sat on her own, on a towel with the dolls, making conversations with the dolls. She was just being, completely in her own little world. And all the attention from mum and dad was on that boy. And what was that teaching her? Be quiet, look after yourself. Don't cause any problems.
Yeah, don't be a disruptor.
Don't be a disruptor. Be quite invisible, be quite silent, to be honest.
Yeah.
Whereas he was
Keep your head
disrupting.
down.
He was a disruptor. He was the one saying, no, my lunch now, Mum. I want to play in the pool. I thought it was so fascinating that early on, without even realising that Mum and Dad had already set the tone.
The conditioning is there, isn't it? And they don't even realise they're doing it. It's not they're not doing it on purpose. It's not a conscious thing. So for me, even if disrupting, it might simply be about asking questions about stuff.
Yeah.
Might say, you know, why is that like that?
Yeah.
What's
why
the
do we
reason
do it that
for
way?
this? And that's still disrupting. You don't have to go in like a bull in a china shop and start smashing plates, do you?
No, absolutely not.
So just maybe think about what that word could mean for you, disruptor. For me, trait number 2 that shines through in all of these is humility.
Yeah.
You know, like we said, a lot of them, they weren't blowing their own trumpets. They weren't shouting about I mean, I wish they were a bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
But actually, part of what makes them successful is the fact that they just kind of like took it in their stride and, well, you know, I'll just get on with this and I'll do this and I see a need for that and I'll change this and I'll
but
have
also
a go
there's
at
a thing about that women aren't supposed to be egocentric, and so women aren't supposed to shout about their achievements. That's seen as like, who does she think she is?
Yeah.
So some of these women, particularly the women from past generations, that just wasn't what women did at all. And then some of the women in current generations are probably thinking, well, I'm not going to say anything about this because look what happened to Hillary.
Yeah.
Or look what happened to this person or that person. You know, wherever there's success, there's always negative narrative.
Yeah.
Isn't there? So maybe a lot of these women have learned behavior not to own.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that links in, doesn't it? That humility too. I'm going to
sneeze. Bless you.
Thank you. Oh, not the one.
Bless you again.
Oh. Well, at least you know it's a raw,
live.
Raw unfiltered interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
The zero ego involved in these women. They're not on a quest for self gratification and fulfillment, is it? What they do is often for the greater good.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit. So for me, those 3 things: humility, zero ego, and spirit. There's something about the spirit of these women, about the belief that they are doing the right thing. They're doing something for the greater good, not for themselves, not
value
for the credit.
Value driven, which again, most women are. We are value driven. That's one of our biggest differences.
Yeah.
We are value driven. You know, if we can't put our values up front and center, we either have to move and go somewhere where we can, because it makes us very uncomfortable and very dissatisfied and very unfulfilled.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, what all of these women did have was a huge amount of passion for the thing that they were doing.
Very much so.
You know, none of the women that we've looked, I mean, wider than the ones we've talked about today, every single one of them was hugely passionate about what they do.
And that is a big lesson for us all, because if you haven't found your passion yet, you need to keep looking, because when you find it, you'll know, and, you know, then your life will take on a different feel.
And that actually helps you to be a disruptor when you're super passionate about something.
You'll say it, you'll do it.
Yeah.
You'll put the drill in, you'll ask the questions, you'll change it. Most definitely, passion is really key.
Yeah, and again, linked to being that disruptor, to be a disruptor, you've got to be able to use your voice. And every single one of these women, and I want to say use your voice, I don't necessarily always mean like standing up and doing a speech about something.
No.
You know, right, we could look at the Lady Di example, Princess Diana example, and think, well, you know, she did an interview. Yeah. She used her voice literally in the simplest terms.
Well, that was a long way down the line.
It was a long way down the line.
She didn't, you know, do that in the beginning, did she? She was more action orientated.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, if we look at some of the women that are in the book, actually, they still had a voice.
Yeah.
It, you know, it's just not always so overt in that sense.
You don't need to be on a platform.
No.
You know, you need to use your voice, but you don't need to be doing it on a platform.
No, it's about speaking up. And then I think the final one that definitely runs through every single person, and for us is a very a feminine energy trait, is about intuition, wasn't it?
Yeah. Because I can't tell you how many times I haven't listened to my intuition and it's gone very wrong.
Yeah.
Chaos has ensued.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've even known I'm doing it. I thought my intuition's telling me this isn't right. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And then it explodes.
Lo and behold.
Yeah.
No shit, Sherlock.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah. So we are, as women, we are very intuitive. We just need to learn to harness it.
Yeah, definitely. So in celebrating these amazing women, hopefully there's a couple of new women there for you to know about. We're spreading the message about those. But most importantly, the 7 kind of traits, the superpowers that as women we can harness. Talking about being a disruptor, having humility, our spirit to do the right thing, leaving our egos at the door, being super duper passionate about what it is that we're all about, using our voice to speak out, and finally being able to trust and use that intuition. Let's start listening to that a lot more. So whatever scale you're operating on, however you go about your business today, the rest of this week, how about you just keep those in your conscious mind and see how you can get those to show up for you. And then celebrate yourself today.
Yeah. And if you want to share who your icon woman is, please do.
Let us know.
Yeah.
So that's it for series 2. We will be back.
It's a wrap.
Yeah, we will be back soon with series 3, where we will be getting really deep down into a hot topic of
women and work. Does it?
Does women
and
work go together?
Yeah.
So join us for that. And we're going to be having some guests in to join us on some of those episodes. So we'll see you next time.
See you next time. You have been listening to Jane and Jodes on One. Until next time, remember, sisterhood matters. Together, we are bold, brave, fierce, and unstoppable.